Thank you for joining us today for the program Bible Truth. Our study today will begin at 1 Kings 9:23, and the plan is to go through chapter 10, verse 29. Today's lesson is number 15 in our 1 Kings series, and the date is May the 17th, 2026. Now, last time we went through most of 1 Kings 9, but we'll finish up with the last 6 verses today. Before we do that, though, I'd like to return to the previous section that Wally read for us last week. Now, why was Gezer, G-E-Z-E-R, why was Gezer singled out by Pharaoh to destroy and present as a dowry to his daughter? We read that, but the question is, why Gezer? Why not another place? Well, we read way back in the 3rd of Kings that Solomon married the daughter of the Pharaoh. Now, according to my Bible dictionary, Gezer went way back at least 1,000 years. At least 1,000 years before Solomon reigned, the time that we're in right now in our lesson. Now, we read last week from Joshua that the Ephraimites did not dispossess the Canaanites from Gezer, even though they were instructed to do so by Moses, or by God through Moses. And Joshua. So I suspect that Gezer was a thorn in the side of Solomon, and perhaps, and this is speculation on my part, but perhaps he requested that Pharaoh get rid of the Canaanites who lived there. Now, that's pure speculation on my part. And another part of the mystery, though, is that according to Joshua 16:10, the Ephraimites lived among the Canaanites. So if my theory is correct, did Pharaoh kill the Ephraimites along with the Canaanites? Well, I don't know. Scripture doesn't give us complete, detailed answers to everything. So I don't know, but it still stands to reason to me that Gezer was selected for destruction for a specific reason. Now also, it looks to me to be a positive development that Solomon had access to so many slaves. And we read about that in verses 20 and 21, if you want to look back at chapter 9. However, had the Israelites, who originally moved into the Promised Land, followed God's instructions, there would not have been any Canaanites to enslave. So, was it a good thing that those earlier Israelites disobeyed God? Well, I think the last scripture we read last week was Numbers 33, 53, 56. And I read it from my Legacy Standard Bible. But I'd like for us to listen to it again from Lamar's New Living Translation. Lamar, if you're ready, read 1 Kings 9. I'm sorry, Numbers 33, 50 through 56. Numbers 33, 50 through 56.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
All right. And this is from the Living Bible.
Mm-hmm.
While they were, Numbers 33, 50 through 56, while they were camped near the Jordan River on the plains of Moab, opposite Jericho, the Lord said to Moses, "Give the following instructions to the people of Israel. When you cross the Jordan River into the land of Canaan, you must drive out all the people living there. You must destroy all their carved and molten images and demolish all their pagan shriners. Take possession of the land and settle in it, because I have given it to you to occupy. You must distribute the land according to the plans by sacred lot and in proportion to their size. A large portion of land would be allotted to each of the large clans, and a smaller portion would be allotted to each of the smaller clans. the decision of the sacrifice no, the division of the sacred lot is final. In this way, the portion of land will be divided among your ancestral tribes. But if you fail to drive out the people who lived in the land, those who remain will be like splinters in your eyes and thorns in your side. They will harass you in the land where you live, and will do you what I have planned to do to them. Will do to you what I plan to do to them. And so the Lord was telling the people to do certain things. And this Numbers 33, 52, 56 contains God's definitive instructions to the Israelites just before they entered the promised land of Canaan.
Mm-hmm.
It mandates to completely eradicate the idolatry that existed and fair distribution of the land, and issue a severe warning about consequences of disobedience. He was very definitive about any disobedience. That is, if the people left, if any people are left in these lands, there will be splinters in the eyes and thorns in the sides. It will constantly be a problem for you. And then that the Lord would punish the Israelites for leaving these people in the land rather than eradicate them like He warned them to. Mm-hmm. Rusty?
Amen. Great explanation, Lamar, and I really like the word you used in your comments about eradicate. God said to eradicate. That means to get rid of completely. And we've seen through, as we read through Joshua and Judges and even on up to now in 1 Kings, we've seen the problems caused by the fact that the Israelites didn't eradicate all of those people, and of course we're still seeing results of it today. Still seeing. Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
God eradicating right now. In terms of we who are born again, right? He married folks who ain't born again. Look at the problem we have with the children, with our wives. When you don't deal with sin, like God said deal with sin. Mm-hmm. In your home, mm-hmm. Divorces, mm-hmm. all kinds of problems. People say the same thing to us now. Mm-hmm. We see all these marriages, we see all these folks bringing it. What happens is we need to reject this stuff. Once you don't reject it, eradicate it. Mm-hmm. It's going to continue to get worse. That's our problem now. Most of the Christians you see now, before they be born again, they get into politics, they get all kinds of stuff. And then they bring folks into the Christian environment. Mm-hmm. And then God, and then eradicate. It's messed up.
Sure.
Our world system is messed up. Because folks who are Christians, claiming to be Christians, and also come in there and bring the folks in. To the churches, to politics. You see it in church right now. You're going to see it this week. Folks coming in church ain't saved, making promises. No, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get it, but this, I can go on like that. Yeah, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I believe we all do know what you're talking about because we experience it all the time. We sure do. It's never a good idea to disobey God's commandments or instructions. God, who sees the ending from the beginning, is completely sovereign and does not make mistakes. Okay.
One more thing, be true.
Okay.
When you do this here, you're going to have less friends, less expensive folks come to see you, but you're going to be happy. You're going to have problems come to see you
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Okay, Joe, if you would read 1 Kings 9:23 through 28, please.
First, if I could, I'm going to start with verse 22
Sure.
because I need to pick it up there.
Okay.
And it says here for Solomon did not consign the Israelites to slavery. They were soldiers, his servants, his commanders, his captains, and commanders of his chariots and his cavalry. But if I could, let me go back to 20. I'm sorry, I meant to go 20. 20.
Yeah.
As for all the people who remained of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, who were not Israelites, their descendants who remained in the land after them, those whom the Israelites were unable to destroy completely, Solomon imposed forced labor on them. It is still that way today. But Solomon did not consign the Israelites to slavery. They were soldiers, his servants, his commanders, his captains, and commanders of his chariots and his cavalries. They were the deputies who were over Solomon's work. 550 of them supervised the people doing the work on the temple and his homes. Now, Pharaoh's daughter moved from the city of David to the house that Solomon had built for her. Then he built the terraces. 3 times a year, Solomon offered burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. On the altar he had built for the Lord, he burned incense within the Lord's presence. So he completed the temple. King Solomon put together a fleet at Ezion-Geber, which is near Eloth on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom. With the fleet, Hiram sent his servants, experienced seamen, along with Solomon's servants. They went to Ophir and acquired gold of 16 tons and delivered it to Solomon. Now, if I could make some comments on that, one immediately recalls that the portable tabernacle in the wilderness was built with free will offerings of God's people. By contrast, the permanent temple in Jerusalem was procured through international trade and forced labor. Hiram's payoff in the end is the number of villages in northern Israel. Land for gold is not a good investment, Hiram felt. Real estate deals are beyond the king's purview, though. In addition to partnership with Hiram, Solomon also made a marriage alliance with Pharaoh, and that proves to be a medicine father-in-law. The excessive numbers of royal ventures and building is carried out by means of forced labor with a range of projects. The final section, which we just read about, is a relocation of Pharaoh's daughter, Solomon's religious observance, and naval activities with Hiram. The foray into shipbuilding is a lucrative one, netting Solomon an enormous quantity of gold to deposit in his burgeoning coffer. I read in some of the notes that they had been excavating in this area of Solomon's home and David's home, and these buildings were so advanced they even had bathrooms that had toilets very similar to what we use today. And Hiram was, among other things, was not just worker, but he actually may have been a Phoenician king of Tyre, the area that he was from. And I think the thing that's interesting is that he was involved in all types of copper refinement. But one final thing that's mentioned in that 28th verse that they acquired gold when they went to Ophir, 16 tons, and delivered it to Solomon. That 16 tons of gold by today's standard would be worth $2.4 billion.
Wow.
That's a lot of gold.
That is.
Rusty.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Joe. Very interesting. Very interesting. That part about the toilets really kind of caught my attention. Had no idea. Yeah, but that's interesting. Archaeology shows a lot. Shows us a lot. Proves a lot. Just a couple of other things. Verse 25 is very important. Now, you'll recall from previous studies that all the males throughout Israel were required to attend the three major events. That was specifically in Leviticus. Three major events, three major festivals, or feasts are sometimes called, in Jerusalem every year. The Passover, of course, which is attached to the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The Pentecost, or sometimes it's called the Feast of Weeks. And then also the Feast of Booths, celebrating the time in the wilderness. Those events were the three times of verse 25. Now, Ezion-Geber was on the northern tip of the Gulf of Aqaba, which flows into the Red Sea. Now, it was about 100 miles south of the Dead or the Salt Sea. Now, Ophir's location is not known for sure, but it was probably, I think there's a lot of proof of this, it was probably near the southernmost point of the Arabian Peninsula on the coast of the Red Sea, much further south, as the Red Sea flows into the Arabian Sea. Now, the nation of Sheba is right there. In the next chapter, we're going to see about the Queen of Sheba and her visit to Solomon. So the nation of Sheba is right there at the end of the Arabian Peninsula, and we'll learn more about it in Queen of Sheba's visit to King Solomon. And by the way, that area is Yemen, Y-E-M-E-N, today. Yemen is sometimes in the news. So that is that location. Okay. At the very end of the Arabian Peninsula. So let's see. Just a second, I got my pages mixed up here. Okay, but we're going to go to the next section in 10. So, Mike, if you would, read verses 1 through 13 of 1 Kings 10.
All right. From the English Standard Version. Now, when the Queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to test him with hard questions. She came to Jerusalem with a very great retinue, with camels bearing spices, and very much gold and precious stones. And when she came to Solomon, she told him all that was on her mind. And Solomon answered all her questions. There was nothing hidden from the king that he could not explain to her. And when the Queen of Sheba had seen all the wisdom of Solomon, the house that he had built, the food of his table, the seating of his officials, and the attendance of his servants, their clothing, his cupbearers, and his burnt offerings that he offered at the house of the Lord, there was no more breath in her. And she said to the king, the report was true that I heard in my own land of your words and of your wisdom. But I did not believe the reports until I came and my own eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not told me. Your wisdom and prosperity surpass the report that I heard. Happy are your men, happy are your servants who continually stand before you and hear your wisdom. And blessed be the Lord your God, who has delighted in you and set you on the throne of Israel. Because the Lord loved Israel forever, he has made you king, that you may execute justice and righteousness. Then she gave the king 120 talents of gold and a very great quantity of spices and precious stones. Never again came such an abundance of spices as these that the Queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. Moreover, the fleet of Hiram, which brought gold from Ophir, brought from Ophir a very great amount of almug wood and precious stones. And the king made of the almug wood supports for the house of the Lord and for the king's house, also lyres and harps for the singers. No such almug wood has come or been seen to this day. And King Solomon gave to the Queen of Sheba all that she desired, whatever she asked, besides what was given her by the bounty of King Solomon. So she turned and went back to her own land with her servants. And as Rusty said, Sheba is located at the southwestern tip of the Arabian Peninsula in what we nowadays call Yemen. And as he said, Yemen is in the news. They have a terrorist group funded by Iran. We call them the Houthis or the Houthis. And they've been kind of quiet during this whole thing. And they also hold a choke point at the southern end of the Red Sea that, like the Strait of Hormuz, that could be used to cut off the flow of oil, but they haven't done that yet, or haven't tried to. But when I was researching this, it looked like there are a great many historians believe that the kingdom of Sheba may have extended across the Red Sea to a portion of Africa and what is a portion of what is now known as Ethiopia. But apparently, from what we read, she had a very wealthy kingdom, and she must have really been intrigued by the news about Solomon, because John MacArthur says that it was her journey was a 1,200-mile journey from Sheba to Jerusalem. And when you're doing that by camel, that's a long trip. And when I think about it, it says that the amount of spices that she brought with her has never been equaled. And apparently, the gold, the talents of gold, was equivalent to 25 tons of gold. And when you think about it, there is no telling how many camels were in her retinue. I mean, there may have been hundreds, but it was, and it says that she came to find out if what she had heard was true, and she brought with her hard questions. And John MacArthur says those are riddles that are designed to stump the hearer, and nothing stumps Solomon. God gave him the answer to everything.
Wow!
And she went to see. She went to see about Solomon, and his wisdom was definitely confirmed to her. But she also came across the glory of the Lord. And I was looking to turn to Matthew chapter 12, verse 42. Jesus talks about the Queen of Sheba, and he calls her the Queen of the South. The Queen of the South will rise up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. For she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, something greater than Solomon is here. In other words, she learned about the glory of the Lord and the wisdom of Solomon, and she went to the ends of the earth to talk about a 1,200-mile trip with no telling how many camels and servants. But Jesus is telling the people there that she could do that. And yet here I am standing right in front of you.
Amen.
And you don't realize. Okay, Rusty.
Wow.
Back to you.
Thank you, Mike, so much. I just want to add just a couple of things to this. There's not much to add to what Mike commented on and gave us. But some of you may be more geographical minded than I am, but it may help. The Arabian Peninsula, the dominant country there is Saudi Arabia. So that might help you in your thinking of where all these places are. Yemen is what we're looking at specifically, which used to be Sheba, apparently. And I found a lot of spellings of Sheba, S-A-B-A. rather than S-H-E-B-A. Yeah. So anyway, same place though, Seba or Sheba. Now, if you would go back to Genesis chapter 10, All right, Genesis 10 contains one of the chronologies, or not chronologies, but genealogies that we read, of course, back when we were in Genesis. Now, look at Genesis 10. I'm going to read Genesis 10 verses 1. Well, I'm going to start with verse 1. Genesis 10:1. Now, these are the generations of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, who were, you remember, the sons of Noah. And sons were born to them after the flood. Now, skip down to verse 6. Again, still in Genesis 10. The sons of Ham, one of the sons of Noah, the sons of Ham were Cush and Mizraim and Put and Canaan. Canaan, we know about Canaan because of the Canaanites. Verse 7. The sons of Cush were Sheba and Havilah and Sabta and Raamah and Sabteka. And the sons of Raamah were Sheba and Dedan. So here's the connection going all the way back to the battle for the beginning in Genesis 1 through 11. Now, if you remember, Ham is the son of Noah who saw his father's nakedness. We read about that. Now, the only reason I bring it up here is only to illustrate that the Sabaeans from Sheba or Seba were traditional enemies of Israel. Now, go to the book of Job. Go to the book of Job this time. We're through in Genesis. Go to the book of Job. Job, and I'm sure you remember something about the story of Job, about how he was tried by Satan. He was tried by Satan only because God gave Satan permission. God has Satan on a leash. Now, look at Job 1:13 through 15, Chaplain. If you would read those 2 verses, please, or 3 verses, please.
Hey, Rusty.
Yes, sir.
Rusty.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to comment once I get through, okay?
Sure, please do.
Now there was a day. Okay. Now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were blowing and the donkeys feeding beside them when the Sabaeans raided them and took them away. Indeed, they had killed the servant with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Hey, what's that?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The ancient Sabaeans were ancient people and kingdom of Saban. They talk about flourishing on the southwest of Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
And then it said that they were part of Queen of Sheba, and part of her reign. And then they said that they believed in one God, like Israel and Islam. They believe in monotheism too now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's it.
One God. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Randy. That's very important. And by the way, this passage also, this is kind of a side note, but this passage gives credence to the land of Uz being, in verse 1, being somewhere in the Arabian desert because of this connection with the Sabaeans that Chaplain just read for us in that passage. Okay. All right. Now, we already read Matthew 12:42, and Mike explained that so well. You know, he was telling the Pharisees there, here I am, truth standing right in front of you, and you're refusing to believe it. But the Queen of Sheba went 1,200 miles to discover the truth of Solomon and the wisdom of Solomon. And as a result, she was convinced of the unsurpassed wisdom and grace of Solomon's God. The whole point. Okay. All right, let's try to get in just a few more verses. Yes, sir. Go right ahead, Joe.
I didn't want Mike to get off the hook there. I got my 16 tons in from Hiram
Yeah.
at
Okay.
2.4 billion.
Right.
The queen came in second there. She gave the king 4.5 tons of gold.
Mm-hmm.
That's about 660 million. And like
Wow.
Mike said, all those spices and everything, there's no way to figure what they were worth.
Man, isn't that something? Isn't that something? And 16 tons. Didn't Tennessee Ernie sing a song named 16 tons? Or 15 tons or
Sure.
something? Yeah.
He did.
He did, yeah. Okay. I remember that. Okay. All right. Let's try to get in just a few more verses. Wally may have had to leave because he teaches, but Wally, if you're there, would you read 1 Kings 10, 14 through 22? Okay. All right. All right. I'm sure he had to go, so I'll read it. 1 Kings 10, I'm starting at verse 14, going through 22. All right. Now the weight of gold which came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. All right, Joe, there's more. Now, besides that, from the traders and the wares of the merchants and all the kings of the Arabs and the governors of the country. And King Solomon made 200 large shields of beaten gold, using 600 shekels of gold on each large shield. And he made 300 shields of beaten gold, using 3 minas of gold on each shield. And the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with refined gold. There were 6 steps to the throne, and a round top to the throne at its rear, and arms on each side of the seat, and 2 lions standing beside the arms. 12 lions were also standing there on the 6 steps on the one side and on the other. Nothing like it was made for all the other kingdoms. Now all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None was of silver. It was not considered valuable in the days of Solomon. For the king had at sea the ships of Tarshish with the ships of Hiram. Once every 3 years the ships of Tarshish came carrying gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. Now it's difficult to even think in terms of the great wealth listed here. Joe's brought it to our attention. It's just overwhelming, just too much. Now, the 666 talents equaled about 25 tons of gold. Now, most, if not all, of that gold came from Ophir, mentioned back in 9:28. Now, the shields of verses 16 and 17 were apparently just for ceremony. Israel was at peace on all sides at this point, you remember. The lines of verses 19 and 20 bring to my mind that Jesus is called the Lion of the tribe of Judah in Revelation 5:5. The ships of Tarshish is an interesting phrase. Tarshish, I researched this a little bit like Mike did his, and Tarshish may have been a destination on the other end of the Mediterranean Sea in Spain. It also could have indicated ships designed to sail among the Greek Isles. But either location was quite a distance from Israel and Phoenicia, or Lebanon, entire. Now the prophet Jonah boarded the ship, if you remember, he boarded the ship for Tarshish, going west to Tarshish, even though the Lord told him to go east to Nineveh. You may remember that story. So I just wanted to kind of point those things out. Again, we don't have all the detailed answers of everything, so we don't know, but we know enough to know that God was in charge, and God was running things just like He does today. All right, we'll just stop there for today and start at verse 23 next week. Anybody got any comments you'd like to add before we go?
Well, I just checked right quick, and it's 7 to 8 billion for a ton of gold.
Wow.
Man.
Man. The question, sometimes comes to my mind. Well, where did they put all that? Where did they put all that gold? And I don't know. Maybe they had a place like Fort Knox. I don't know. All right. Chaplain, you started to say something. Go right ahead. All right.
But all of that is good, but this one is one of the best. All of them good.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make a comment.
Okay. Very good.
How we tied and all this.
Yeah. Well, I think
something about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, don't finish.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just agreeing because the way we start now, with the verse from Douglas and the question from Wally. I mean, boy, that just opens up a lot of good comments and a lot of good things that we think of, even if we don't share them, out loud, for sure.
It's true.
Leading into the lesson, yeah, sure do.
It's true.
Okay, all right, great lesson today. Thanks to everybody, and thank you again to those who are joining us via YouTube. It's our prayer that this time together was meaningful to you and you learned more about God's Word. God alone can save, and He saves through His Son, Jesus Christ. And the Word is here